Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us once again. Steve from Pinball Room. We're here today in our overly crowded workshop. We're going to work some more on metal ball guides today. Yes, we've got metal ball guides, but we need to redo them. They're not perfect. They got some funky bends. They're scratched. They're not cut correctly. They got bad little plastic holders. We got to replace all that and get to final form metal ball guides. Yeah, we got a lot going on here today. We got some new tools we're going to show you. Like I said, it's a crowded workbench. I got kind of a makeshift workbench for my playfield right here. It's been taking me a little while. Some of you might be wondering why my videos have been going a little bit slower lately. Yes, real life, work, jobs, all that type of stuff. But also, I've embarked on doing a getaway, high-speed 2, the getaway restoration with my son. He's going to be graduating high school soon, and so I wanted to hurry and get that project done. So we've got that playfield out, ready for a playfield swap. We've been going through and restoring the cabinet. So that's all sitting over here, ready to go. And we just got the decals on last night. Got the rails, new shiny legs. So yeah, expect some videos for that coming out here pretty soon. Also my channel under a new playlist channel around restorations and repairs and things we got going on. But yeah, so 2 projects at once, because why not? Let's have even more fun with pinball at the same time. All right, I want to dive in here and we're going to switch to an overhead shot to show you a little bit better what's going on with the metal ball guides we have currently and where we need to get them to for their final form. All right, so here you can see primarily upper playfields where we have metal ball guides. We've got one down underneath here that we'll need to recreate. This one was just a really quick and dirty, kind of ugly like little bend I threw in there to protect the edge of these. This is going to be where the ball, right, can sneak behind the flipper, right? You can lift the flipper and have it go down to return lane. We got a piece of plastic that comes in here for this launch area that allow the ball to go down inside here. We've got the switch. That was all kind of ugly, hand drilled out. We've got that in the file for our CNC. That'll be nice and clean. Switch hole, just like the rest of these, a switch slot. But we've got to get this piece recreated. We've got to go through and decide, do I have 2 pieces of half-inch thick wood here for the shooter lane, or I can just do a piece of stainless steel metal ball guide along here. Also have a little bit wider because this gets kind of tight. So I think I might just do one solid piece of metal all the way down and lock it down in, and that could work well. But we got to decide that and get a final piece for that cut out and bent correctly, and then held in place with some posts. Up here, one of the things here we're talking about when I keep saying replace the metal ball guides with posts is because these little plastic connectors that we've been using, they're great for prototyping, 3D printed, cheap. You can get like as many of them as you want, and it's awesome. However, as you can see around different places of the playfield, they're kind of thick. Obviously they're brittle, they break, so we don't want them for a final thing. But like here, this one I modeled a little bit thinner one because the ball was getting hung up here. The ball comes around, it still gets hung up, but I can't put this thing, I can't reverse it, have it be the other direction, then the ball would definitely get hung up here. So it's like there's lots of places where you don't want the ball to get hung up on anything thicker than just the piece of metal, the ball guide itself, right? And so if we have these thick pieces of plastic on the end, well, they just get in the way. There's also places like you can see over here, I'm having to be kind of careful where I'm putting them because, again, like you can't get the metal too close together just because of how thick it is, right? What if the way this was all shifted over another half-inch, I needed this metal ball guide over here, what I wouldn't really have any good way to anchor it down with plastic. Is that to say you couldn't model and engineer something that is thinner and had an extended place to anchor down? I'm sure there's more we could explore in 3D printing with different shaped connectors, anchors, right, and different ways of putting them in. But at the end of the day, it's a pain in the butt. It's a little bit limiting. And really, these are just plastic. They don't look that great, and they're going to be brittle. They're going to break. They're going to snap. I've already gone through a number of these already as I'm iterating. Even just like the strength of the bend of the metal, is wanting to bend back, can kind of pull these out of place. The plastic connectors are great for prototyping, but for me, they're not a final solution. So what is a final solution are spade bolts. Bolts like these. So it took me a little while to track this down, but not the spade bolts. The spade bolts I could find pretty easily. Spade bolts, they go alongside the metal. Let me pull one out here. They're going to go alongside the metal like this. We'll drill a hole through, we'll put a rivet through it, and then this whole thing is going to sit down inside the playfield where we want and be held nice and tight and rigid, okay? So that's what we want to get to. But then we have to have a rivet press. But before we get to that, with the rivet press and everything else, we also just need to remake some of these ball guides, right? Like, look at this guy. That's not a good final shape. That's kind of some janky bends here going on. It's not lining up how I really need it to. I got to get it held in place. Obviously, I was drilling 20 million holes to find the right placement for my optos. So I need to get that all redone with final holes drilled for the optos in the right location. And then the final bends that you could tell I had a hard time trying to bend this. Is not an even bend. It's kind of twisted. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but I can. It's twisted and bad. So we need to get some better bends. One of the things I was doing, I'm looking through my scrap wood, and I've got some different 1x2s and 1x2.5s or whatever these widths are, and I found one that fits in almost exactly the thickness of where I want for my drop targets, this little alley here. So I'm going to use this for the back end where I tried to like bend kind of a square bend. I'm going to use this with some clamps to bend that down into position. I can do the same thing for back here by the subway, okay, and get a nice tight bend around that where I need. We'll use our little roller tool to go through and roll out this bend a little bit better so it stays nice and tight there. So these two will get redone, okay. I need a longer piece here that's anchored for the captive ball. This one's good, but like I've got a second piece that has like this little lip that ends right here. So the question is, do I have this be one continuous piece all the way around to here, and then just have this one like just like doubled, two pieces right next to each other, nice and tight in place there? That might be the way to go. So we have smooth metal for the ball all the way around. That's what I'm thinking. Or I have this go all the way and this one start. Yeah, this one I think is pretty good. I can keep this one and just anchor it down, polish it up a little bit, but I need a longer one. It's going to come all the way around to the same point, and they'll join up here together nice and tight and sandwiched. This one is coming all the way around, a single piece to here. That's about as long as the pieces I can get, and then our plastic piece will go here. This one's good. It just needs anchors. This guy needs to get reformed, we talked about. This guy needs to get reformed. We need a new one here, so 1, 2, 3. And then this guy also, both of these with the holes for the optos need to get redone. So the hole for the opto is in exactly the right place and it's equal and looks good. And that's kind of it. I don't have a gazillion metal ball guides. It's all just kind of the upper portion of my playfield here, right? The top third. And not too much down below. We've got this wire anchor here. We're using this kind of a guide. Oh, I've got one through here I pulled out for underneath the left ramp. Remember that one? That's kind of a fun shot. I need to get a piece in here. Instead of these connectors, the ball keeps getting hung up there also. I need to get a piece in here. But that's just a straight piece that needs to be anchored. That's easy. And then this guy. And then that's really it. We've got our ramps, that come up through these spots here. And then we're there. So it's not a whole lot. Hopefully it won't take us too long. So where to start? I'm going to start with the easiest one. I'm going to start with this guy. I'm going to pull out a longer one and so we can get this bent. The other thing here that's tricky about this one, I got to make sure I've got a little bit of a flat spot up here, right, where the ball can come and just kind of like rest here, okay? Now it was getting hung up on this switch. I've since decided to remove this orbit switch from here and put it over here. The regular wire switch doesn't always get hit because it's kind of a larger junction here, right, from the shot coming into the ramp. So instead, I'm going to use one of these cool star rollovers with a leaf switch underneath that's going to be sitting right about here. And that way, no matter where the ball comes from, it'll hit this rollover switch and trip it, so we'll have more accurate tracking of that orbit shot. So that's going to be replaced and be put right there. But yeah, so what I was saying about the bend belt being the flat spot here, right? We've got to make sure that this inner one, the outer one can be pretty flat, no big deal, but the inner one here, that the ball, right, is going to rest and roll along, right? When the playfield's sitting up a little more this way, as the ball comes along, we want to make sure that it doesn't have a flat spot and you can just kind of sit up here and get stuck and you have to like nudge the machine to get the ball loose to come down. You always want to have just a little bit of a high point. So I feel like I've got a flipper post right here that comes up, so I can't go much tighter than there. But this is my highest point, and this can be a little bit lower. If I can make this my highest point and make sure everything is just gently sloping away on this side, then the ball gets hung up right about here. Hopefully it will have enough gravity that you won't have to ever do much of anything, maybe a tiny nudge, and it'll come all the way around this way. I hope that makes sense. That's an important part with your upper ball guides, upper orbit. You want to make sure the ball doesn't have a flat spot and kind of gets hung there, right? There's always going to roll, even if it goes slow. Two balls go up, kind of knock each other, they lose momentum, they're just going to sit here. No, we want to make sure that they start rolling one way or the other, all right, even if it takes a minute. All right, so let's get a new piece. Let's redo this one. Let's take this guy out. And enough yapping. Let's get to it, Steve. We're going to take these screws, put them in my handy dandy little bowl. I tell you, paper bowls, I've got a bunch of them lying around. This is like a good, simple way to like collect screws and nuts and stuff as you're working with them so you don't lose them. They don't roll around on the floor. All right, you don't need these guys anymore. Little plastic protectors, plastic anchors. All right, so how long is this? Take this little flexible tape measure, my wife's sewing tape measure. She loves that I have stolen this from my own. She's got a spare, she's fine. All right. All right, that is just about 26 1/4, it looks like, right? Yep. 26 1/4, but then we needed this to be longer. It goes from that post around over here. So you can really just measure like this. So let's get a piece of metal that is 30 inches long, okay? And we'll bend that. One of the other things here is this has this plastic protection. When possible, have that be on the inside of your bends or the side that's facing the player, because that's naturally you're going to be able to protect it and keep it hopefully as shiny and scratch free as possible, and that's the side everybody's going to see. So let's keep that shiny if we can.
All right, so we've got pretty much all the ball guides now cut out and curved and ready to go. These are laid out here roughly how they go on my playfield, but all nice, good, solid curves, ready to go. We've got the ball guides. Next thing we need to go through and do, and I'm gonna wait to do it on those until I've practiced because I've learned my lesson, is we gotta go through and punch some holes and practice getting some rivets through these posts to make sure we get a nice tight joint from the rivet. So let me show you what we've got over here, a couple of things I picked up that are hopefully going to make this a little bit easier. So we've got over here, we've got our rivet machine. I've got some spade bolts. I got this from Pinball Restore. Let's see, I bought the press, okay, and I also bought a whole bunch of offset spade bolts and some rivets. And it came in this nice box from Debbie at Pinball Restore. I bought this a couple years ago, like I said. This is adjustable, and you just push them in, easy peasy. All right, but what we need to practice is the height. We'll just take this guy for right now. So what I need to practice is, we've got this little bolt with this little hole. It's offset, just barely, right? You can see that? So the metal will come on this side. Anyway, and kind of holds it, kind of sits there as a little bit of a shelf.
And so I need to know just how far up the piece of metal I need to be making my holes. And I need to get that to be like a consistent thing I can just set and go in my little drill press. Right there, my cheap little drill press. Little Ryobi special from Home Depot, but that's all we need for this. We need to get that set up in a way that we can go through and be making these punches consistently. Try doing it by hand. Some people do it by hand, but I've noticed that too many times my bit will tend to kind of like crawl a little bit. It'll kind of walk along the metal. The next thing I know, my hole is a little bit off, and I want these to be consistent. I'm just too OCD, so I'm gonna figure out like a little, I don't know, like a little jig, a little line, and we'll figure that out so we're getting consistent drill spacing, hole spacing every time. All right, so the first attempt, what I'm gonna try doing is just taking a piece of metal, taking the spade bolt, putting it on it in position of where it should go. And then I'm just gonna mark through it with my permanent marker. Okay, and then I've got the laser crosshairs on here, and so I can line that up, and that should be good enough for all of it. I think I can do that consistently. Get that right in the crosshairs, and then I'm going to get a clamp to hold everything in place, and then we'll just test. Yep. Looks good to me. It's lining up just right. And now let's do a practice rivet. I'll grab a long one. You have something like this, right? That's basically just like a thin little rod, right? It's hollow metal. It's got kind of a fat side on one side. And what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze it together, and this top part that is round or hollow is going to kind of curl back on itself and pinch. And the way that works is you have two dies. These are the ones that they made for me here. So one is just kind of convex and round, and it's going to fit the head of one of these, right? And just goes there and gets held in place. This other one, you can see it's got a little dot in the middle. Okay, and that's going to go on the other side, the skinny side, and it gets pushed. And as it gets pushed, it curls out. And then I wish I could do it like in slow-mo for you. Anyways, so what we need to do is get these set up in this base. It's got a little pin, holds it here, and then the other one just kind of slides in. Then we can get here and we just are gonna punch it down. At least that's my understanding of it. So let's give it a try. We got one here. The question is exactly what size do I need? I'm not sure exactly what size I need. All right, so I'll put that there. I just bumped it right out, didn't I? That's gonna be fun. Making sure these handles don't get in the way. Make sure that's seated. So we put that in there. Had to kind of wiggle to make sure this was like seated correctly. And now I'm just gonna squeeze. That did not turn out good. That is an ugly rivet. Focus. Anyways, that's an ugly rivet. Did not turn out good. It's not even. This thing needs to be clamped down because it was wiggling on me too much. So we're going to try another one. I almost wonder if it needed to be a little bit shorter of a rivet too. Yeah, not good. Let's try again. All right, done 2 now. I actually had, I think, too long of a rivet before, and this latest rivet I seem to do better, but it's still like it's spreading, but it's not curling back on itself really like it should. I feel like I'm not really getting the leverage out of this press that I need. I might need to actually secure it to my full workbench more securely so I can get a little more torque on the lever, is what I'm thinking. So we're gonna keep trying with that for a minute. It's like it didn't curl over quite as much as it needed to. It spread it out, but it's not as tight as I want it to be. I can already kind of wiggle this. And it should be sturdier than that. So I think, Steve, you didn't push hard enough. I've tried that. And I've got it clamped in, and I put a lot, like all my weight on this. And I look and I can see that the die is, you know, it's touching the post. It's gone as much as it can. I'm not sure if I don't have the right die, but I'm not quite getting what I really feel like I should be getting out of this. And so I looked around. There's another website that's still active called Ramp-O-Matic, and he doesn't have this press. He talks about the different types of ways you can do this. What he does have, as you can see, his stickers down here. Ramp-O-Matic sent some stickers in the mail. Has his own kit, so I've got extra rivets. There's also some washers. Sometimes with plastic things like that, you'll need like a washer to help kind of disperse the pressure. And then he just has an old-fashioned die. It's got the same tip. It looks almost identical. I mean, it does. To me, it looks identical, the die, to this one. I don't know. It looks identical to me. I don't see any difference in those at all. But we're going to try it, see if it works any better. This is one that's just part of a rod you can take then with a mallet or a hammer and just bam, bam, and kind of bang the rivets. Try the same thing here. And I'm just going to see if this will finish it any better. It looks like it's already pretty much there. It's maybe a little bit tighter. It does seem, to me, it's hard for you to tell, maybe it does seem a little bit flatter. I think maybe that is a little bit better die than the other one. Maybe it's not quite. This one's a little bit shallower, so it forces it to curl more. Snugger, there's a little bit of wiggle, but yeah, see now I can't get my fingernail under the lip. Before I could kind of cut through and get like my fingernail under the lip, and now I can't. Honestly, it still feels like it could be just a little bit tighter. But that actually looks pretty dang good to me. But for me, starting with the press and giving it a couple of whacks this way has been the way to go. This thing is going to run you over $100 if you can find one of these or have to go through and make one your own. This little tool through Ramp-O-Matic and all the rivets, the whole set of like 40 of each of the rivets, size or whatever, plus this tool was like $50 mailed. I think it's like $30 plus shipping or whatever, like, so super affordable. Works good. I'm sure I probably just need to practice with it a little bit more. So I should be able to get just as good with nothing but this tool. I probably need a little bit better surface than just my cheap little table saw table here that I'm pounding on. Maybe that's my issue. But yeah, that's what we want them to look like in the end. Just that nice ball there. We want it to be pretty snug. There's a little bit of play there, but it's
it's not coming out, and definitely there's no move back and forth. It's laterally, there's a little bit, right? But that one looks good. Looks way better than the ones I was getting the other day. So on my ball guides here, the inner side people are going to be seeing has the white plastic. I've already been going through with permanent marker and marking where where there need to be anchored. I whacked the camera, sorry. Where I want the posts to be anchoring this in place. And then I had it laid out. And I've got corresponding marks on my playfield also here in the wood as to where those holes, those posts are going to be. So I can go through, once I get all the posts riveted on here, then I'm going to go through and I'm going to really mark it like with pencil more finely. I'm going to drill the holes, okay? We'll get them setting down in where they need to go, and then we'll be able to go through and digitize that inside Fusion, those post holes. Then when we go through and cut out our next playfield, we'll have the post holes ready for us also, okay? All right, everybody, that's where we ended up. Apologize for a little bit kind of like jumping around in the editing. As you can tell, it was a series of shots over a number of days. Came down with COVID in between it all, kind of got stretched out. I'd recorded some different segments back to back. It's kind of hard to put it together. I think we got it in a flow that makes sense now. You can catch up on all the main things I went through. Last couple of things that I learned that I realized were not on film. I thought I recorded them, but I want to share with you guys. They're important. Learn from my mistakes. All right, first thing, the drill press. When you're going through and cutting metal, as much as the drill press, like inside, has a little guide and tells you what speed for what type of materials by the pulleys, at least the Ryobi guide was not really worth anything. It was telling me to go to like the highest speed for cutting through metal. I was burning up some bits. I was not getting good even cuts, so I realized, okay, I must be using the wrong speed. Why are these bits getting burned out? They're metal specific bits. I did a quick little Google and somebody told me, yeah, go through and turn your drill press down to its lowest speed setting for cutting through metal, which kind of seems like maybe I heard that at one point way back in the day, but I'd forgotten it. I don't know. Anyway, that worked like a champ. I lowered it down to the lowest speed on my drill press. It's cutting through them like butter now, consistently. I'm not burning through any bits. Nice smooth cuts. So if you're going to be cutting through the metal, you most likely, if you're using a drill press, you want to lower that speed down. And even with a hand drill or anything else, you want to go at the right speed for the material cutting through. And you want to be down like around like 600 RPM, thereabouts, give or take, probably 100 or so. So make sure you're going the right speed through the metal. The other thing I picked up along the way is I put this in like one of the little overlays, but when you're doing the rivets, Ramp-O-Matic talked about this a little bit also on their website. It's a great website. He's got a great little thing walking through, talking about how to do rivets and kind of the pros and cons of each different type of tool. He talks about 5 different like types of tools you can use. But one of the core things I picked out was I'm using 1/8 diameter rivets, which is like, that's like the semi-tubular common rivet for pinball stuff, right? But you don't want your hole that you're drilling to be exactly 1/8 inch. You actually want it to be just a smidge bigger. 9/64. There's also one of the little call-outs I put up on top. 9/64 is the size hole you want to drill, just a tiny bit bigger. That way, as it compresses, it can expand just a little bit before it starts to bend. That actually made my rivets a lot better also. I didn't cover that in what I had recorded, but that's part of the reason why I threw that up there. That's important also. And then, yeah, getting the exact length, it was a little bit of a balancing act. I just had to try. I mean, we're going by a 32nd of an inch difference, but it makes a big difference. 5/30 seconds, too short. 7/30 seconds, too long. 6/30 seconds, once I had the proper die to pound in, I'm getting great rivets going on now. I went through and I did a piece also where I have 2 different pieces of ball guide that need to come together and I want a single rivet for them. So I took another couple of pieces of metal here, right? And I practiced lining them up together on my drill press, clamping them down, getting a solid drill hole all the way through, which at the lower speed was a lot more realistic for me. And then again, had to kind of play around with the length. And anyway, it turned out I was able to get a nice, beautiful rivet here for just the 2 pieces also. So yeah, make sure you kind of test on some sample metal first and figure out exactly what length you need for your rivets. The washers are used often with pieces of plastic, like on ramp flaps or plastics covering ramps or different areas of the playfield if you're riveting things. That helps make sure the pressure doesn't go through right onto the plastic and crack it. If you're doing restorations or other things, that's another tip that Ramp-O-Matic shared with me, but that was really good. Okay, I think those are really kind of the core things. Really the next step now is, one of the things I've been finding now is I've been going through and doing these drill holes. I've done a little bit of filing. I'm getting little scratches here and there. My awesome tool that I love for bending metal is also leaving little marks in my ball guides. So That can be very problematic if I wanted to keep a brushed steel look, which is what the majority of all the manufacturers and a lot of people do. But if you look on some older restorations or some older games or people who are doing restorations, you'll see people who go through and they take their pieces of metal and they polish them to a mirror finish. So that's the route I think I'm gonna go through in my next video. And I've already started playing around with it and I'm actually really loving the results. It's turned out really nice. It's totally subjective. I've been talking with different people. Some of them like don't really care for that look. Yeah, it's gonna, you know, scratch a little bit easier. Other people are like, man, no, it's worth the time and effort. I love the mirror finish. I've been playing around with it. It looks really sharp. It could just be new and flashy and different. Maybe I'll get sick of it, but for now, I'm really liking the look. Anyway, that'll be in the next video that'll be covering up here soon. Back in action. I lost like almost a month. It's like driving me crazy. Texas Pinball Festival is just around the corner now. I'm just like, there's so much to get done. But anyway, we're gonna keep on with it. I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. I'm sorry there's been so long since my last video went up, but I really appreciate all the supporters. And everybody who's jumped out and saying they're supporting me for the Twippies as well. Let's see, maybe we can get on the ballot. That'd be awesome. Anyways, the important stuff though is just that we're coming along and we're learning. I've been learning so much as I do this. I mean, the second time through is gonna be so much easier because I've already know the right drill speed, the right drill bits, the right process for polishing, there's so much we're learning along the way, right? We've been doing this, coming up guys, we're almost on 2 years since I started this project. I thought for sure I'd be done in 2 years. Thought I was being conservative. Thought maybe I could bust it out in a year. Everybody else is telling me, oh, I've been working on mine for 5 or 6. I'm thinking, you're just going really slow. You don't have enough time to put towards it. But man, there's a lot, guys. But at the same time, it's like, it's been 2 years of just so much fun. Like, it's just so freaking fun. Anyway, thanks so much for the emails and for everybody on Patreon. We've been getting so many great feedback and support. And again, just heard from another gentleman, Ray, who reached out and was thankful for the videos because it's helped inspire him to get moving. Guys, that's half of why I'm doing this, right? Motivating myself, and I love when I hear that it motivates other people. So if you haven't started your own pinball machine project, your own homebrew project, why not? Now's the time. We're back in the winter months. You got nothing else to do. Go out in your garage, get a heater going if you're in a cold area like I am. I'm shivering right here now, guys, but it's worth it. It's so much fun. So I love seeing all the great homebrews that have been coming out. There have been so many good ones. Like, the community, I feel like, is really growing more and more. So big shout out to the guys over at Fast for making all this possible, and everybody else, Culver Pin and P-Rock. There's so many options out there, guys. Like, there's just so many ways to go about this. So just get off your butt and get going and doing it. And if you can't, well, come along for the ride and watch all the rest of us who are doing it, right? Which many of you are, and I love that. We love getting all the feedback. We love seeing the enthusiasm. Just, again, huge shout out to all of you. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.